Tell me where you're at first, and then tell me feelings.
Oh, okay. You've never phrased it like that.
Apparently that's what we do now.
Well, it's implied. Feelings are implied. It's a mental health podcast.
I know!
That you've been doing for over a year. What a day. What a week.
Agreed.
I feel like we just need to get started because we have so much ground to cover today.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a tagline.
Oh, good.
Or let's see if I can remember it. Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
And welcome back to Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast that might not be in your head all the time, but we have a home there.
Aw.
I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
And today is a follow-up episode to the one we put out 2 weeks ago about rumination, which was Lauren's topic. Anyway, we are sharing the listener responses to that episode.
Mm-hmm.
We got 3, and I feel like it's going to be a really intense conversation.
Yeah, I saw Vicky's response to our
poll.
Our Instagram. I'm like, what's that thing called where we post?
Oh, thanks for reminding me to paste that into our chat.
Yeah, so I read that one, but I haven't heard the other ones yet.
Oh boy. Well, you're in for a treat, as are you listeners. But first, Lauren.
Yeah.
Tell me how your night has been and your week in general.
Yeah, let's start with today.
Yeah.
So it is the big family reunion for my family in St. Louis that I wasn't aware existed until I moved here. So it's this huge extended family that lives here. And so my dad and a couple of my aunts, a couple of his sisters all decided to come down for it this year. So, you know, my dad's making the 12-hour or 11-hour trip from Michigan, and
that 1 hour makes all the difference.
Yeah. So today was, I just spent the day with my dad and his girlfriend. I won't see the aunts and stuff like that until family things tomorrow. But it is the whole weekend. My dad, when he informed me the plans, you know, his way of telling me, of course, is, so we're going to drive down on Thursday night and you're going to have to take Friday off so you can show us around. I'm like,
what? Presumptive.
Exactly. I was like,
is that the right word? Presumptuous.
Yes.
Presumptive. Seriously, though, that's like, you're a grown-ass woman.
I know.
With a big job.
Yeah, that's how I felt when you told me that, is that it was just like, oh, I'm going to have to? Okay.
Yikes. Anyway.
To be fair, I only took half the day off. And I feel like part of it is because there is so much busy stuff going on at work and I'm responsible for so much more recently that I felt a little guilty taking a full day off.
Of course. It's you.
But, you know, I gotta admit, part of it is just because he told me you have to. And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do half day.
God.
Today, at least, was a pretty nice day. I went up in the St. Louis Arch for the first time ever.
How was it?
Well, it's tall.
No shit.
I didn't realize that it's like, I guess the tallest structure in the U.S. Like, it's taller than it's taller than the Washington Monument. It's taller than any of like the tall buildings.
What?
Yeah.
Than the buildings?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. No, that was the biggest shock to me. I agree.
This is really shocking.
It's about double the height of the Statue of Liberty.
What about the Sears Tower?
It's taller. It's the tallest man-made structure in the U.S.
Man-made structure in U.S.
Did they lie to me?
This is a disappointing answer because no one will recognize this.
Uh-oh.
But the highest man-made structure in the United States is the KRDK TV mast.
Oh.
It's a television transmitting tower in Trail County, North Dakota. And it's 2,060 feet, 630 meters tall.
Okay, that is taller. That's correct. But
like, who cares about that thing?
Right.
I also, like, get on you for going on too many tangents, and I'm just, like, leading you down the rabbit hole at this point. Okay, so you went to the St. Louis Arch.
Mm-hmm. And had a pretty decent time hanging around with them, which I am always nervous, especially around this particular time. I only had one moment where my dad made some comment about, I don't even know, a governor, a mayor, someone in Missouri or one of those. He's like, good thing you guys got them out. And I was like, Dad, we're not talking politics.
Yeah, for a while, I didn't know what you meant by it's that time of year.
Yeah, no, I just...
And then I was like, oh, shit, she means an election year. Yeah.
I just meant that I got to shut him down immediately.
I mean, same with my folks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they don't love talking to me about politics either.
Well, my parents seem to love it, even though I never agree with them. That's why I have to shut them down, because I don't want to argue with them.
Exactly.
I don't want them to go away being all smug, like, I made my point and she'll see I'm right. I'm just like, no, I just don't want to talk about it.
No is a complete answer. Didn't you say that on the podcast before?
Something like that, yeah.
So what did you talk about, if not politics? What do you talk to your dad about normally?
Oh, it's tough. I don't know what to talk to him about. I think it's good, that we hadn't really talked in a long time, so there was some new things, like I could tell him about the band, I could tell him about the new aerial classes, plus we were doing things, so...
Nice.
We could talk about, what we're experiencing, so...
Honestly, yeah, when I was long distance from my family, it was easier to find stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I see them, almost every week, it's just I don't know what to talk about at this point.
Yeah, you just hit a point where it's like, all right, I think I'm awkward. Can I go home now?
Yeah, nothing has changed for me. I'm still as miserable as I was last week. Can we not talk about it?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so you just caught up and stuff today.
Yeah, and I had felt, this would be the hardest day to get through if anything was going to be awkward and annoying, because I knew it would just be us.
Have you met his girlfriend before?
I met her once. And she seems, she's really nice. She's really...
I knew you were going to say nice first. I just knew you were going to say nice. Sorry.
Well...
Anyone can be nice, Lauren.
I know, but I want to get it across that I actually do like her. So that's usually my go-to for that. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't say a word. I would just probably be like, she's, well, something
Not like they listen to this podcast.
No. But she's pretty... What do I want to say? Quirky is the wrong word, but for some reason that's where my brain went. But she's...
Whimsical?
I think she's just kind
eccentric?
of... Yeah, sort of sarcastic and funny and...
A little off-kilter?
Yeah, that's a very good word. Off-kilter.
We'd probably get along.
Yeah.
I love weird older women.
But she's in the same way that I am, what little I know I am aware of. That's why I was like, let's shut down the political talk, because then I will not like you.
Seriously.
I want to stay liking you.
Yeah, dude. I've just had to unfollow a few people from social media. People that I'm still friends with. I just didn't want to see them posting all this, to me, noxious stuff.
Yeah.
That's my right. You
Exactly.
don't have to follow everybody on social media.
I've had to do that too. And I don't do much on Facebook, so I really have no clue what their stance is now. But I loved when they added that mute function, where it's I don't have to not be your friend because I didn't stop liking you and wanting to be your friend. I just don't want to read all your Facebook posts.
Yeah. Can we circle back to your feelings?
What? I thought we established I don't have feelings.
I thought you were going to say, I thought we established that I'm going to rip my computer in half if you just tell me to circle back.
I forgot. Oh, I forgot to circle back. I missed it.
That's why I did it.
I know, and now I get it, and I missed it. I failed.
If you laughed at that joke and remembered last week, then please let me know so I can feel like I'm funny.
It also means you have a better memory than I do. But if you want to know feelings...
Yeah, give me your feelings.
Really? Just ready for the whole weekend to be over? Like I said, the part that I would have been dreading the most, or that could have easily went wrong, is now behind us and it went fine. But I think just because I have had so much to do at work this week, and I've just felt so exhausted every night that I knew that I was just kind of I just wish that I had a weekend to sit in my bedroom and pet my dog and not do anything.
Yeah, you need that.
Mm-hmm. But I don't get it till next weekend, so that's what I'm waiting for.
It'll come faster than you think.
Hopefully.
All right. Well, thank you for your feelings.
Mm-hmm. How about yours? Tell me where you're at first, and then tell me feelings.
Oh, okay. You've never phrased it like that.
Apparently that's what we do now.
Well, it's implied. Feelings are implied. It's a mental health podcast.
I know.
That you've been doing for over a year.
But the thing is, I always think that I'm telling you feelings, and you always call me out on it, and I realize I didn't really. So it's not me thinking that I shouldn't be telling my feelings. I just avoid it.
Speaking of calling out, I feel like some of the voicemails today called me out big
Ooh.
time. I'll keep this short and elaborate more later, but it's just been a fucking awful week. Last Friday, I found out I got denied for disability, and that was a bummer, even though I was expecting it, even though everyone told me it's common to get denied your first time. It still hurt.
Yeah, because I know that I would still feel just like a rock sunk in my chest actually seeing it.
Oh yeah,
Even
that's
though
exactly
you
how it
know,
felt.
yeah,
Yeah, even though I know.
that it was probably going to happen or that it could happen easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still is.
Um
It still hurts.
yeah, and of course, my brain was like, time to go off the rails. If they don't think I'm sick enough now, like I'll show them.
Mm-hmm.
I was in therapy talking about this with my therapist, and I told her that I feel like at my core I am still a teen in crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And I do ruminate on this stuff a lot. My whole life in some ways is built around that, which we'll talk about later. And this week it has been really harmful for me. I have not been doing very well. I don't again want to get into details.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet anyway. The substance use and the eating disorder, everything is just like getting worse at once, and I'm just in my head all the time. And I don't know, I think I'm at the point now, I'm 32, like I know when I'm not like good, when I need help.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to think like, okay, I might need help soon because I don't know what to do. And the thing is, I don't want to stop, because how do you get the desire to stop doing something that's harmful to you when you don't have any sense of value?
When you just don't care.
Yeah, you don't care about your, like, my own physical health. Like, I don't really give a shit, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, people never know like how to respond when I tell them that. Like, I don't like telling them that, but it's the truth.
Yeah, well, that's why I was thinking, like, that's why it's tough, because it's like you said, that you got denied, and I heard some of the stuff afterwards, and I was like, do I want to see you respond that way? Of course not. And do I wish that I could, like, say the magic thing that would, make you not feel that way? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but I also know, and from having been there as well, or similar spots, I'm just like, there's not a magic word. There's not a way to just stop someone's brain from doing what it's doing.
Yeah. And, some of our mutual friends have given me feedback and support, which I'm really grateful for. But I think the consensus was you really do have to go through the motions at first. You can't just wait around to be ready
Yeah.
to improve yourself. I don't want to say recover, because listeners know how we feel about that word.
It's not our favorite word.
But yeah, I feel like we did an episode about going through the motions, where we kind of talked about this same thing. Like, sometimes it's good to go through the motions because it means you're moving forward.
Yeah, actually, if we can have a brief little tangent before we get into the main episode, I have a friend who I had, met in the treatment setting probably like 8 years ago now at this point. And she is struggling and actually, like has off and on, but has always been anti, like going back to that at all, and is now,
So she's anti-treatment.
Yes. And also, I think, there was long stretches of time where she just was convincing herself, like, no, I'm better off and I'm, pretty healthy. And, it's like more recently I've seen things like she's recognizing that she can't keep living that way and trying to take steps herself. And also even more recently recognizing, like, maybe I do have to admit. And she's like, at least I think she got an assessment appointment at a place, so willing to do that stuff. And, and every time I see that, I have commented and been like, of course, I support you in all of this and everything. And I've gotten a couple of responses from her that were like, I don't know how you do it, or I watch you sometimes and I hope that inspires me to want to give recovery a try. And I've never been able to respond to those because it immediately makes me feel like a fraud. I'm just kind of like, it sounds like she's seeing me as someone that's just like completely on the other side. And I'm just like, but I'm not. I want you to understand that I'm still back and forth sometimes. And
well, you're going through the motions.
Exactly.
So why don't you tell her that?
I think basically I haven't felt like I've had time to really like sit down and put a good thought out response to it. So I think that's more it's just like, I read this and it kind of like doesn't sit well with me because I'm like, oh, no. I mean,
that's what heart reacts are for.
Yeah.
As much as I hate the reactions on your phone.
Right.
Like, send me an actual text. Don't react. It's so passive aggressive.
That's right.
Anyway, I do it to Lauren all the time.
That's okay. It means that she read my stuff.
But yeah, that's crazy. Like, I've been in that same situation too when I've been fresh out of treatment and I've gained weight and I'm doing more stuff. I'm meeting more people and putting out this podcast, so I can't possibly be struggling.
Right.
And people tell me, I'm so proud of you. You're doing so well. Like, you're an inspiration. And yeah, I have that same reaction, which is like total imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I want to be genuine about it too. I mean, I can't, if I said the complete opposite, if I was just like, oh no, honey, you've got it wrong, I'm still so fucked up. I'm just like, no, I can recognize that it's better. But also, I don't want to be, like, oh, I am this paragon of recovery that you should emulate, of course.
Paragon of recovery. I mean, I would say, thank you. That's so sweet of you to say. I'm still struggling a lot, but I'm proud of how far I've come, one day at a time, or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it's the truth.
And I think that's the kind of thing that I'm looking to say, because I do feel like guilty when she says these things like, oh no, you have the wrong idea about me. I got to set you straight. I haven't had the time to just kind of like work out a response that says it all.
I mean, we, and by we, I mean you and me and all the listeners, like, we touch more people than we think we do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also doing better than we think we are in some cases.
Probably
in
true.
Some areas.
Probably often true.
Yeah. I am really excited to get into these pickle poll answers because, like I said, a lot of it is relevant this week. For people who aren't familiar, we ask a question every 2 weeks and everyone answers it, and then we talk about your answers. So our pickle poll last time was, how do you overthink your mental health? Where is the line between healthy introspection and toxic rumination?
All right. And Vicky answered, which is great because this whole thing spurred from a conversation that Vicky and I had. So she kind of sums up a lot of what we talked about. So I'm really glad that she answered.
She inspired the topic.
Yeah, it's a lot of like what made me think in the first place and want to talk about this. She says, in answer to the pickle poll, I have no idea where the line is. I wonder often if I'm doing so much better than I used to be because I'm focusing on living a full, productive life, taking care of responsibilities, working full-time, hanging out with friends, enjoying the outdoors, etc. Or if I'm just so busy living life that I'm ignoring how I'm actually doing on the inside.
On the inside is all in caps.
Yeah. Is the contented, busy, productive life the goal? Does it even matter then how I'm feeling? Just saying that, my immediate reaction is, of course, it matters, but how much does it matter and how much focus should it get? Because when all I focused on was my internal stuff, my life was a freaking mess.
Oh, such a good response. I struggle with black and white thinking, and I feel like this is a great example of that because the way Vicky writes about it and the way that I think sometimes is that, like, I'm either doing everything except think about my mental health, or I'm thinking about my mental health all the time and nothing else. There's no in between.
Yes.
But neither are good.
I mean, on our episode about it, how many times did we say balance?
Balance.
But I am exactly like you, and that was our whole like discussion about it and why we didn't have an answer, because I'm just like, yeah, either it seems like all I'm thinking about is, like how I feel about this and what internally is going on. And then I'm just like lost in introspection, or else, yeah, I'm just pushing it aside. And as, we've probably brought up before, you just push all of that aside and keep pushing it aside. And eventually it's going to explode in your face.
Yeah. Vicky asks, is the contented, busy, productive life the goal? And I thought we should answer that because for me, honestly, it used to be back when I thought that was the golden standard.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would say no. At this moment, that sounds terrible.
Same. But the only thing with that too is I still know that according to most people, it seems like that should be the goal. So it's more like, if you ask like, is that the goal? Then my response is like, well, I feel like that's what I'm supposed to want, but I don't actually think I do.
Yeah, I mean, the older I get, the more I come to appreciate solitude, not isolation. There's a big difference.
Yes.
That's when I do, pay attention to how I'm feeling and just have a chance to check in with myself, or even just like play the piano, something that doesn't require thinking at all.
Yeah.
But it's not productive either. If you're productive all the time and busy all the time, you're going to burn out.
I think playing the piano is productive.
Well, yeah. And when I first started thinking of rest as productive, it made it so much easier for me to justify resting in my head. And I know it's silly, but like whatever works.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything's about balance.
Balance.
Late night pickles and vodka.
Yes.
It's only 7.
I know. It's only 6 for me.
Anyway, let's play the voicemails.
Okay. I'm ready to take notes because you told me these are long ones, or one is.
Oh, well, so Orion didn't send a 9-minute voicemail.
Okay.
He sent 9 individual clips on SpeakPipe.
Okay.
I got it mixed up because I told Lauren I might not make it in time because I'm editing. I have to edit down Orion's 9-minute voicemail.
I was just like, do we need to set aside a whole nother episode for this?
No. I mean, I think people know generally not to send anything longer than 5 minutes. 3 minutes is like the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And I think that's about how long it is.
Okay.
So here's Orion.
Overthinking is such a sneaky thing because it's very important to feel our feelings, not to just put them off, but to feel your feelings and to understand your thoughts and to be aware of the challenges that you face due to your mental health, due to any problems that you have, to understand that these are the specific challenges that I face. Some things are going to be harder because of them, and like what things are hard for you and what things that you might not be able to do. But I do like the phrase rumination. I think often we can go to a place of rumination and overthinking. When I start saying, oh, I can't do that because my anxiety will be too much, and I can't do what normal people do, and nobody understands me. You know, I'm no good for this or that because of any facet of my mental health. I think that really does a big disservice, not only to me, but to the world around me. The meaning of life isn't my own personal happiness and comfort, you know? Like, if I'm just expecting that of the world, like, oh, I can't participate in the world until I'm a perfect person, like, that's crazy. I am a crazy person, but we are living in a crazy world, and we are not the only crazy people in the world. My participation and my ability to get through this world does not hinge on like my personal feelings about myself. And at the end of the day, I have to recognize my own feelings and my own capacity for growth. And it's okay. It's good to be aware of your struggles so that you can work on them and grow through them and not let them stop you from finding what actually means something to you in the world. The phrase toxic rumination, you know, that could mean using it as an excuse to bow out of, you know, your dreams or your responsibilities. There's many times in my life where I've definitely just done that, especially when I was much younger. But I think ultimately you have to want more. You have to not cross that line. You have to want more for yourself and realize that you are capable of more than yourself and that you're not the only person who may have these struggles. You have to find some way to share them and recognize that what we think might separate us from other people might just be the main thing that we have in common, and not with other people. If you have a mental illness and you don't relate to other people, you're still part of this world in your own way. Just don't let it separate you from yourself. You still have to have an identity. You still have to find an identity. I'm still looking for my identity. You can't let it stop you from trying, I think, is my thesis here. The whole world has room for our suffering. It has room for you to suffer, for another person to suffer worse in ways that you can't control, but we still must continue. And we have to help each other out. Like, you can't just do it all on your own. As you might know, as I'm continually learning, probably one of the best ways to make sure you're not overthinking is to simply, like, talk it out, to keep talking about it, to keep connecting with other people, which is what you guys are doing on this podcast. And I'm really glad that you're still doing it, because we're all prone to overthink and to get in our own heads and to say, woe is me, my life is so miserable, I'm all alone. But we're not at the end of the day. We can rely on each other and we can rely on ourselves because other people can rely on us too. We're stronger than we think we are, but we have to know our demons. Know your demons. but don't become them. It's what I think I want to do.
So now do you realize why I felt called out?
Kind of, though I might have been relating it to so much of myself that I
as
missed
you
that.
should.
Yeah.
You're not thinking of me the whole time.
I know. I'm such a bad friend.
No. But yeah, that's super powerful.
Mhm.
I have a lot of thoughts.
So I took a lot of notes.
Yeah, why don't you go first?
I think one of my first ones is telling yourself things like, I can't participate in life until I'm a perfect person, until, like I have everything just right, until I've fixed everything about myself. I realized that, like, yeah, I've given myself those sorts of messages, but when you say it like that, what it sounds like to me is those famous phrases that I've always said I hate so much, which are like, you can't love someone until you love yourself. You can't be loved until you love yourself. And I'm like, if I hate that so much, why am I telling myself these similar sorts of things?
Yeah. Oh my God. Because when I heard that, when he was saying like how he doesn't like to use his anxiety as an excuse or whatever, like complaining about not being like a normal person, everyone hates me. My first gut reaction was just like, how dare you? People are suffering.
Right.
Like, my pain is real, damn it.
Yes.
But then I stepped back and I was like, he is right. I also think that your personal happiness and comfort is not the point of life, but it is important.
Yeah.
And it's all about balance. Like, you shouldn't not do stuff because of your mental illness, but also you can't push forward and like, sometimes you can go through the motions and eventually it becomes like easy, but not all the time.
Yeah.
And you're the only one that's going to be able to tell. You have to hold yourself accountable, which...
Because I feel like maybe I'm starting to get a better handle on that. Like, there has definitely been times, like, because of wanting to isolate and, like, feeling high anxiety about things, I know I've pushed myself to do things, and sometimes they've actually gone really well. In particular, the example that came to my mind is I loved the band Veruca Salt because they hit in the 90s when, like, all of my favorite music was happening, or when, like, music was just starting to, like, speak to my soul.
Wait, like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory character?
That's what the band is named after.
I've never heard of it.
They're amazing.
What genre are they?
I mean, they're, like a 90s grunge sort of thing, but it's fronted by two females.
Females?
Oh, sorry. Two people that probably have vaginas. I think it's what we decided.
Okay, let's circle back.
All right.
To Veruca Salt.
Yes. It was the time with all of the music that's like already like speaking to my soul and everything, and then plus you've got extra like girl power, girls rock, girls are awesome. So
girls are awesome.
They are. So yeah, I loved this band, but because they're young when they started, so you got a bunch of like attitudes and things like that. So they broke up by like 1997 or 98, and I hadn't even gone to a single concert at that point. It was too early for me too. So I just had listened to them all the time and accepted like it's never going to happen. And then they got back together in, I want to say, 2014.
Oh, shit.
And I was living in Chicago then, and they were originally a Chicago band. So, of course, they're going to play some big Chicago shows. And I tried to get people to go with me. I tried to get them to understand how important it was to me. And, of course, they're just like, well, maybe. And then at the last second, like, no, I don't feel like it and everything.
Did anyone even know who they were?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it would be friends like my age. So, they probably knew them from the same time period. But I know I finally thought about it. I was just like, you know what? I'm so freaked out at the idea of going to a concert by myself, and I know that I'm just going to like feel awkward and stupid and everything, but I am never going to forgive myself. And so I just went, and I ended up meeting two other people there. I don't even know how, that were in a similar boat, that were just like, oh my God, I always loved this band, and I never thought they'd get back together. And we just like hung out and talked the whole time.
Oh my God.
And I was like, see, I forced myself to do it, and it went okay.
That gives me hope. Oh my God. That's never happened to me when I go to shows by myself, but like, I have resting bitch face pretty bad. I've been told I look intense.
That's probably the only time, because I know I've also gone to some shows by myself and I just feel like, okay, I'm standing here and I'm awkward. I'm ready to go home.
I'm really tall too. That can't help.
Yeah,
things.
That's true. And you've got that awesome pink hair. That probably intimidates people.
I guess. Actually, old ladies always approach me and compliment my hair. It's really sweet.
Oh, that's funny.
But back to Orion's voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to force yourself through those bad feelings to do the thing that scares you. And in that case, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, and that's the thing I feel like is when you have 1 or 2 times that it works out, then I feel like it gets a little easier sometimes because you can want to like hide and isolate, but you kind of ask yourself, is it possible I'm going to go and actually find out that I had a really fun time? Because that has happened. So it could happen again.
Well, I guess to play the devil's advocate, I have a similar story, but it ended the opposite way.
Mhm.
So I have been following this shoegaze band for a while, and they were in the US. I forget where they are originally, but not the US. And they were playing in my town,
Mm-hmm.
which, as we discussed with Effie last week, is a small town and
Yeah.
no one really cool comes through there. My mental health was like okay at the time, but I was working at that toxic job and I had just moved into a new apartment with Brett, and I just was starting to have those feelings of like the mental illness slowly creeping back in, but everything was fine on paper. So
Mhm.
like I gaslit myself a lot back then.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went to the show really excited. I like dressed up and everything. And we got there and the vibe was just off. It was very crowded, very loud, lots of men. There was an old guy with a video camera
Ugh.
shooting this girl dancing.
Ugh.
I just started feeling kind of panicky, and I usually try to stick it out because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to let my anxiety win. Like, I'm just going to do this
Yeah.
no matter what. And it's going to be a good time because, yeah, it often is.
Mhm.
But that time, I just kept feeling worse and worse. And finally, I realized I'm allowed to leave because I already bought my ticket. I'm supporting the band. What's keeping me here? Like, I'm
Yeah.
so uncomfortable. I'm just not having a good time. And so we left. And I don't fault myself for leaving things early or even declining things because of my mental health. Because when I say like I'm too anxious to do that thing, I'm not using it as an excuse to back out of it. Like I'm really, really anxious and I don't think I can push through it.
Right. And that was where I said, I feel like as I have more of both kinds of experiences, I feel like, or at least I hope that I'm getting better at judging, like, is this
Yeah.
actually going to be bad for me?
You have to know yourself, know your demons.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
What else do you have in your notes?
I loved one of the things towards the end where he said, there's room for you to suffer and for other people to suffer even worse, because that just made me think of how I feel like we beat ourselves up a lot. Like if we're doing badly, it's like, oh, but not as bad as this person, so I don't have a right to feel bad. And that's what that made me think of a lot, is it's like, no, if you're struggling and you truly are, you are struggling. It doesn't matter if it's not the worst struggle in the world. Like it's still valid.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's like I can't figure out if this is political, what I'm about to say.
I think I know where you're going. I think it's going to be okay.
So last October and November and December, you know, when I was getting really caught up with what's happening in Palestine, I was relapsing into my eating disorder in a way because of all that. And I didn't tell anyone because that's disgusting, like blaming your relapse on like an actual global crisis.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to hold space for both at once, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I thought, you know, what's going on over there is so much worse. They don't even have roofs over their heads. And I have all these luxuries and I have the option of burying my head in the sand if I want to. And so I'm going to become super, super into this. And it didn't turn out great.
Yeah, I think I said, a few times when you would kind of like touch on that when you brought it up, you don't have to like deny yourself anything because you feel so bad about this. Like you are still allowed to take care of yourself. But I agree that on the flip side, if you are truly struggling, you also don't have to like push it down just because like it's not as bad as what they're going through. You're still struggling.
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing.
Exactly. And another thing Orion mentioned was like, let's see if I can read my own handwriting. It ends up being a disservice to the world around you when you do ruminate on this stuff. I don't know if that's the right context for that quote.
I have kind of like a little the same, because I have written down, you can't help people if you're not honest, because that was kind of what it made me think of when he was talking at that point, that it was like, by not shutting yourself down, you know, we've talked about this, like surprisingly, that helps a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do keep shutting yourself down, you're like shutting that off from other people, like that opportunity for them to get something out of it.
Exactly. And that is like the beauty of introspection is because knowing your demons, as Orion put it, you can then help people with the same demons.
Yeah.
But you have to talk about it. That's
Exactly.
the thing. And listeners know that even we struggle with that, but we're trying to be better. I do kind of sometimes see vulnerability and like rumination as almost a responsibility because of this podcast and like because of my writing and everything. I sometimes feel like it's my responsibility to be. The one last thing I wanted to touch on that he mentioned was bowing out of your dreams and responsibilities. Because that part called me out more than anything else. Earlier when I said that I think at my core I'm just a teen in crisis, I have been doing a lot of realizing this week that I don't feel like an adult, never really have. We've talked about that before. But there's no reason for me right now to be doing the things I'm doing to myself unless I'm like trying to stop time to prevent myself from having to be responsible again and like to own my shit basically and my dreams. Like I have all these dreams of like being a writer and, you know, growing this podcast and what have you. But even in therapy this week, I literally said, I'm never going to be that person as long as I keep doing these things to myself. But it's not enough to know that.
Now I feel called out.
Right?
Yeah, because that is, wow.
I know. And it makes me kind of sad and also a little bummed because you don't want to hear that you are your worst enemy.
Yeah.
And that doesn't illuminate the real barriers that we all face.
Yeah, I was
that
going
are
to
external.
say, hearing that and, you know, being hit with a brick and recognizing like, oh shit, that's right, still doesn't make it like, well, I can wake up tomorrow and everything will be different.
Of course not.
You know, it's still kind of like, oh, why is my brain working against me?
But I know when I'm bullshitting, essentially, and I know when I'm just trying to escape. And that's pretty much all I've been doing lately.
Yeah.
And it can't go on for very long, so I need to figure out what I'm going to do about that. Keep talking about it, I guess.
Yeah, that's a start.
Do you have anything else you want to say about Orions before we move on?
Yes. Because
oh no,
I have wanted to say this, and I make this note. I feel like every time he leaves a voicemail, probably for like last 5 voicemails, it's not related to our topic at all.
Okay,
it is just that I think the word I want to say is that he has the most amazing diction. I notice it.
Oh yeah.
In particular, every time he says important, I'm just like, I love how you say that word. So I just wanted to pay a random compliment because I notice it every single time and I always mean to say something and I don't.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
My family still teases me for the way that I used to say writing. I would say writing.
Oh,
And so now they're like, Christina, how's your writing?
Aw.
But yeah, I like it. So this is Jess's voicemail.
Okay.
It's the last one.
So initially, my thought was bullshit. There is no line. There should not be a line. And if everybody could consider their mental illness or the mental illness of others and how their actions and behaviors impact that, and if it's talked about more and more, then the stigma goes down, the awareness goes up, and maybe we function better as a society. At least that's a really hopeful thought. But I also can recognize that I know several people who it is quite literally their entire identity, and everything that is discussed is always around, well, my ADHD is out of control today and I can't do this. And it's that negative spiral, that negative thought pattern that people can't pull out of. And so part of that is a mental illness, right? Part of that is mental illness when you live and thrive in that negative cycle. However, I just continue to hope that if we all could be more aware and can ruminate in our shit more, our world might be a more appropriate place. At least that's my wishful thinking.
That's also my wishful thinking, TBH. What are your thoughts?
The first thing I did is write in all caps, can we normalize mental health?
Seriously!
I felt like that was the first part of her message, and I 100% agree.
Well, yeah, in her words, there shouldn't be a line because we should all just be good at talking about this stuff. It should be normalized. You shouldn't have to say, oh, I can't think about this too much.
Or like, I got to put on a face so that people think I'm okay.
Exactly. But instead, we have you either make it your whole identity or you push it down and never talk about it. And both of those are extremely harmful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as we were just talking, I actually got the two words that I wanted to describe the difference is if you are dealing with like a mental health issue, and I feel like it's the difference between do you use it for an explanation for why you are the way you are, why things happen the way they do, or do you use it as a scapegoat?
Oh my God, yes. That's really good.
Because that's what I felt like when she was talking is I'm like, yeah, that's where I feel like it gets toxic is where people use it as the scapegoat instead. Just like, well, I can't do anything because of this.
Exactly. Or like instead of using it as like the lens that they see all of their experiences, they just like turn the lens around so it's facing itself. And that's, I don't know. I'm not as good at metaphors as you are.
I'm thinking of, because we discussed a lot of different situations with anxiety, and it's kind of like the difference of saying, you know, like, I know that I have like chronic anxiety and it's something that I deal with a lot. So I'm aware that this thing that I want to do might be easier for people without, but it's going to be more challenging for me and I have to give myself grace there versus saying, I can't do any of this because I have anxiety.
Exactly. Again, if you know yourself, then there's a difference between saying, I think being around people would make me really uncomfortable and I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like putting myself through that. I'm not going to go. There's a difference between that and I got 3 hours of sleep last night. I was on my feet all day. I know I committed to this, but I'm feeling really fragile emotionally. And I know that I
already know it's a more difficult situation for me than a lot of people.
Exactly. And maybe if you were like, maybe if things were different and your baseline was higher, maybe you could go. But sometimes like, I mean, your state of mind really does matter.
I mean, that's why I felt like your example was perfect because you did. You went and you did the thing aware that like it might turn out well. And when it didn't, you recognize like this is not working for me right now.
Exactly.
And that's what you got to do.
Man, that's good. Good stuff. With that said, I still don't really know how I can stop ruminating this week. But you know, I am keeping myself busy as much as we had that rant about productivity. I think it does feel really good to be doing stuff with my time, especially since I've been so wrapped up with this disability stuff. I've just kind of forgotten that the world still exists and like life goes on.
I think it's a really amazing revelation that you had earlier saying, you know, that like you are aware you actually have goals and dreams and things and that I already forgot how you put it, even though you've said it like 3 times now, keeping yourself in a teenage...
Oh, a teen in crisis.
Yeah, like that's keeping you stuck, and that stuff can't happen if you keep yourself there.
Exactly. We'll see where I'm at next week. Hopefully a better update.
Yeah.
We love you all. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with a topic of my choice that I just remembered I need to find. I mean, I have a great topic planned.
Yes. She's been working on it for months.
Yeah, it's going to be great and very well researched.
The best one ever.
The best one ever, number 172. Oh my God. We've done so many episodes, Lauren.
We're in the 170s?
We're close to 200.
Because you know, 180 is my past halfway point. We're almost there.
Before the year is over. All right. I'll see you later.
All right.
Bye. If you like what you heard, don't forget to tell a friend about our podcast. You can direct them to picklesandvodka.substack.com where they can find our entire archive and also get access to our chat. We're on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast, Facebook.com/Pickles and Vodka Podcast, and YouTube.com/@PicklesandVodkaPodcast. My Instagram is @XtinaJumper and Lauren is @LaurenAFH. We'll see you next week.